everyone, and welcome to another episode of Psychology in the Wild. Basically, me reacting to videos you have sent me and explaining some psychological insights either behind the episode, or I'm just going to basically pick a topic that I think the video reminds me of. So these episodes are always a little bit chaotic. But to be quite honest, I kind of like this energy. So I don't know about y'all, but I think I'm going to continue in this direction. It seems like also many of you enjoy this type of format, and I had a blast with some of the videos that you have sent me. Some of them I cannot really include them because they're, let's just say, they're outrageous in some ways that we don't want necessarily to talk about. No, what I mean really when it comes to that is just that some of those topics are more related to, politics and such. And so while I do have my own opinions on those things, I do believe that I am not an expert when it comes to politics. And so since I'm an expert in psychology, I'm just going to talk about things that have to do with my field. You know what I mean? Like things that I actually know I have a foot to stand on. So anyway, without much further ado, I would say that it's time for us to go into the first episode. So, okay, I think my screen is recording. And oh my God, I recognize this kid. I have to be honest, I think I have already seen this video before. Oh God, are you guys ready for some emotional damage? Because oh.
누구랑 놀 때 제일 좋아?
배 모르겠다.
Oh God,
너무 취침하니까.
my baby boy.
나야 안 보여줘.
Oh God, I have worked way too much on my makeup to cry right now. Oh, sweetie.
한마디 하고 줘.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
아빠한테 바라는 거 있어?
착하게 들려주면 좋겠다.
Oh my
혹시
God.
엄마는 어때?
다 좋아하는 것 같아.
Oh, how can you imagine a child thinking that? Look at him. Oh my God, I want to give him a hug through the screen. Baby, take all the minutes.
엄마한테 말해봤어?
내 말이 안 들려줘.
No, baby.
그냥 놀아주면 좋겠다.
Play with your kids, man. Okay, my God, wow. If you did not plan on crying, well, I'm so sorry for you. But you're gonna have to, because my heart is breaking in so many pieces that I might spend my entire life picking them up at this point. And I'm not even dramatizing here. What this little angel feels isn't really boredom. In fact, his stimulation seems to be lacking from an emotional side, not an intellectual one. And pay attention to that difference, especially as a parent, because it's very important. Okay, boredom is when a child has nothing to do, but in his case, the child has no one to be with. So kids don't have the language yet to say, I feel lonely in this house, or I feel like nobody enters my world, because the parts of the brain responsible for emotional labeling and complex self-awareness are still under construction at this age. That part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, is going to be the last areas of the brain to fully develop, and that will happen around 25-ish, some studies say. But to be honest, I think it's going to happen for the rest of your life. Therefore, until that point, the limbic system, especially the amygdala, will be very active, which means children will feel emotions very intensely long before they can understand or explain them. Which is why the love you felt at 20 will not feel the same at 30 or at 40, and why the coping mechanisms you used at 20 don't work in your 30s anymore. So because they lack the words, very often these feelings come out as restlessness, as random remarks, let's say, half sentences, tantrums, deflections, confusion, and so on. But the moment that should make every parent pause is when this little boy is talking about his parents, right? When he says that his father is scary when he's angry and that he would like his father to call him nicely, it describes the reality of way too many children in this world, and it brings to light a lesson. The moment you become a parent, strength is the farthest thing from intimidation. Therefore, you will have to develop a strength that starts with gentleness and an authority that begins with emotional safety. Now, for many men, this is profoundly uncomfortable because they were never asked to develop this part of themselves before. Most probably, they were rewarded for being tough, controlled, distant, stoic, depending on the situation. And now suddenly, the job requires warmth, tone regulation, softness, emotional presence, patience. These are all skills they most likely never practiced, and most importantly, skills they most probably also undervalue. But parenting is exactly that. It forces you to develop parts of yourself you never needed before. And if you refuse to develop them, your child pays the price for that refusal. Okay? Then we have the other side, the other coin of the dynamic, the mother. Very often, when a woman realizes she is not being supported the way she imagined she would be, she hardens, she guards up, and she becomes more functional than anything else. Efficient, structured, right? She keeps the family afloat, yes, and she becomes the one that handles everything, and that hardening often saves the family logistically, but costs the child emotionally in the long run, not to mention the mother herself. Right, because a burnt out mother or parent, generally speaking, does not feel warm to a child. A frustrated mother does not feel inviting. A mother who is surviving or a father who is surviving does not feel emotionally available. And children feel this instantly. They're very intuitive. It's not like they need you to say it out loud. They feel if you are with them because you want to or because you have to be, and you're bothered by it. So one of the hardest pills to swallow for many parents out there is that just showing up is not enough, right? The emotional quality of how you show up is what actually makes an impact, which brings us to the bigger system at play here. The fact that in most families, even loving ones, children's emotional needs are at the bottom of the priority list. Almost as if they're optional, almost as if you should be as low maintenance as possible to be a good kid. We say children are the most important thing in the world, especially when we talk about pro-life people. But in practice, in the actual reality, beyond romanticizing the idea of children, work comes first. Adult comfort and hobbies come first. Adult ego comes first. Adult exhaustion comes first. And the child adapts. The child always adapts. And then we have the nerve to wonder why so many people end up people pleasing or feeling like a burden when they're adults. Yeah, I wonder why. Like, listen, many people would look at this child and say, he has a good life, nice house, parents together, room full of toys. He got nothing to whine about, but survival conditions are not the same as thriving, even though I feel even ridiculous to have to say this out loud, right? A child does not need a room full of toys. They need a full parent. And I guess this is the part that is uncomfortable to hear. Many people have children for reasons that have nothing to do with being ready to pour love consistently into another human being without ever receiving as much as a thank you. They have children because it is the next step, because it is expected, because they think they will figure it out along the way, because they assume love will come automatically. But parenting is much less about love as a feeling and much more about love as a daily behavior. Right? And if the idea of reshaping yourself emotionally, softening parts of you, sacrificing comfort, your weekends, your evenings, regulating your tone, regulating your presence, learning how to enter a child's world instead of forcing them into yours. And if that feels like too much, then it's not the right time to have a child. Okay, maybe the most honest way to end this commentary is with a small exercise for you guys. If you are unsure whether you want children or not, try to look past the cute moments, the holidays, the matching outfit, the idea of a family picture. Instead, imagine a hard day or even a hard period, because sure as hell, you will have them. Imagine, I don't know, real cases like your child screaming for hours and you have no idea why. Imagine being exhausted, overwhelmed, touched out from your work for whatever, and still having to show up gently every single day, even when you're tired or when you would just need some silence. Imagine things going wrong in your life at the same time, work or partner wise. Imagine doing things without help. Imagine doing this when you are already at your emotional limit, because you will hit those points, and it's better for you to think about the fact that they are coming, because like it or not, parenting is revealed in the difficult moments, not in the good ones. To be honest, like, I'm not saying to only think about the bad stuff, but I'm simply saying that for each good thing, there will be an opposite challenging one, and it's much easier to be aware of them. But yeah, this video makes me cry and makes me emotional each time I see it. It breaks my heart in so many ways. So you know what, now that we have talked about it, I think that we can just move on, because I cannot bear seeing this little dude that way, you know what I mean? Okay, let's see the next video. Oh, there's a quote here. Whoa, people give you what they are, not what you deserve. What you deserve, you give to yourself. Interesting. Very interesting. So, in case people are listening or not willing to look at the screen, the video is simply a quote. People give you what they are, not what you deserve. What you deserve, you give to yourself. You know what? Okay, if you want to build community, you need to hear this. When we think about what we deserve from others, we often imagine that people should treat us with, kindness, generosity, love, openness, emotional availability, all of those good things. And we feel frustrated when they don't. But the fact is, what someone is capable of giving you depends on what they have developed in themselves. And since nobody is born with emotional maturity already assembled, let's say, that skill has to be built over time through experience, through reflection, through work we put in to grow ourselves, right? No matter how much someone loves you or wants to give you support, they cannot generate in themselves something they have never developed, and vice versa. No matter how much they love you. That's why we often feel hurt or disappointed. There are two main reasons. One is that we tend to idealize someone's capacity as a shortcut. A lot of the time we get disappointed because we assumed someone could meet us at the level we meet ourselves, or the level we wish we did. So we end up projecting the skills of stability, maturity, and depth onto the people we put on pedestals. Sometimes we overestimate someone else's emotional capacity. Sometimes we hope they will rise to meet us, even if there's no evidence they do. But either way, when that expectation doesn't match reality, the outcome is the same. Hurt and disappointment, confusion, inner conflict. It's the discrepancy between expectation and reality that creates pain. And two, the second reason, we hope that someone else should show us how to treat ourselves well. Each of us has internalized ideas about how love and care should look and feel. And those ideas were shaped by the important people in our lives growing up. So when someone treats us a certain way now, we react to their behavior, but we also filter it through the emotional patterns we learned long ago about what we expect love to be, if it makes sense. Like when that internal voice was inconsistent, absent, punitive, we start hoping that someone out there will finally affirm us in the way we never learned to affirm ourselves. This is the unhealthy side of external validation, by the way. When we look for someone to treat us the way we wish we could treat ourselves. We look for someone to show us how to set boundaries because we never learned it. Or we look for someone to reassure us because we never taught ourselves how to calm down. We look for someone to love us in exactly the way we want because no one ever did growing up. And so this becomes a problem because no matter how emotionally available someone else is, a person can only reflect back to you what they already recognize in your internal emotional world. Like, someone can't make you feel understood if you've never learned to put your own feelings into words first, if you don't know how it feels in your body. Someone can't reassure you that you're safe if you've never practiced calming your own anxiety and recognizing that that's what they're doing. Otherwise, they will end up having to reassure you continuously. They can't implant or create within you an emotional experience that you have never learned to generate or recognize in yourself. They can only echo it, mirror it, reinforce it. So when we hope someone else will teach us how to care for ourselves, we are handing them responsibility for something that is actually an internal developmental task. That's why when they don't do it in our way, or they can't sustain it, or they simply don't know how, we feel abandoned because we outsourced something that only we can build. Both of these modes have the same outcome. You become dependent on others for a sense of emotional safety, stability, and love. And I know that for many, this concept of doing things for yourself has become almost a bit of a cliche, but psychologically it makes perfect sense because our needs for regulation and acceptance and safety, etc., are first met through internal processes. Okay, through how we learn to soothe ourselves, how we learn to handle discomfort. And once that internal groundwork exists, that's when community can come into play. You see, all of that growth happens in the inner world, in solitude and self-reflection, but the social world, our groups and friendships, is where that individual growth gets